The Anatomy of a Crisis.
On Tuesday, September 28, 1982, at approximately 5:10 in the morning, an Illinois Central freight train with 101 cars derailed in the town of Livingston, Louisiana. The derailed cars, many of which contained hazardous materials, presented an extremely dangerous threat to human health and the environment. There was an immediate high risk of exposure to flammable and toxic organic substances, as well as acids and caustic. More than 3,000 people were evacuated from the area for 14 days. The derailment proved to be one of the worst chemical transportation accidents ever to be experienced by the state of Louisiana.
On the morning of September 28, 1982, I was having coffee at my house, listening to the train pass. I heard a series of loud crashes, followed a few seconds later by a violent explosion. My son and I went to see what had happened. We could see that the train had derailed and that 5 cars were on fire. Other people were beginning to gather near the site. After talking with the brakeman of the train and understanding the danger of leaking and burning chemicals, I decided to begin evacuating a small area near the derailment. Shortly afterwards, the state police began arriving in force.
I'm Trooper Will Carter of the Hazardous Material Unit of the Louisiana State Police. When we were called, according to our previously developed plans, we notified the National Response Center, the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources, and the Louisiana Department of Agriculture. We also established a security perimeter around the scene. The National Response Center notified the Environmental Protection Agency and other needed federal agencies. Upon arrival, we immediately obtained the train manifest from the conductor to determine what hazardous materials were being carried on the train and began to survey the damage and assess the potential immediate danger. We observed that the accident was in downtown Livingston with business offices and residences within a very few feet of the wreck, and there were large fires burning out of control. The smoke plume from the fire was carrying chemical vapors blowing in a direction that required further evacuation.
This early gathering, assessment, and evaluation of information was crucial. We found that we needed to expand the evacuation. As this was a transportation-related accident, State Police Colonel Grover Garrison named me on-scene coordinator. The incident team supporting me consisted of state police personnel, railroad, industry, and government agency representatives. We established a command post several miles from the scene. This team also included Bureau of Explosives personnel from the Association of American Railroads and hazardous materials specialists of the railroad, who played a major role in the emergency phase to remove the uninvolved portion of the train and contain the chemicals released from damaged cars. Representatives of the chemical industry were also on the scene immediately to provide technical advice on the chemical properties and dangers involved. On day 2 of the emergency, the fires involving the vinyl chloride cars intensified. An area to the west of the derailment was diked to contain the flow of corrosive acid. The first ground entry to the scene was made by an armored vehicle as we continued to identify the cars and their contents. By the end of day 2, only the derailed cars were left on the scene. All of the other cars which could be moved away had been taken away by the railroad. A forward command post was established near a grocery about a quarter of a mile from the wreck. This command post was used for staging our reconnaissance operations within the security perimeter, where extreme precautions were taken to protect personnel who were observing, taking samples, and operating equipment in the vicinity of the wreck. A decontamination station was established at the forward command post to provide personnel with facilities to put on and take off protective gear and to prevent the spread of chemicals by teams entering the scene. Showers were later added to the station to thoroughly wash chemicals from all personnel. All contaminated water was collected and disposed in a safe manner. The next and most difficult step in abating the emergency was to try to clear the derailed cars. Because of flame impingement on numerous pressure cars which contained volatile organic chemicals, a possibility of an explosion was extremely high. And indeed, on day 4, that possibility became a reality. An explosion of severe magnitude did occur. This explosion is termed a BLEVE, which means boiling liquid, expanding vapor, explosion. When the explosion did occur, it not only delayed the clearing of the tracks, but delayed air, soil, and water monitoring as well. It also was a major factor in deciding to extend evacuation. Large pieces of metal were scattered and thrown for over 1,000 feet. The derailed tank car was blasted over 600 feet through the forest, knocking down trees, fence posts, and barns. Such was the power of this force. When the levee occurred, there was structural damage as far as a half a mile from the site.
But it was day 7 when the fires subsided enough to begin clearing the wreckage. We transferred the contents of some of the cars into trailers and moved them off the scene. A serious problem developed when we were trying to move one of the more extensively damaged tank cars.
In the process of re-railing the styrene car, an additional crack was exposed, and the entire car reignited and was engulfed in flames. Water sprays from the fire department on standby during re-railment protected the workers, and there were no injuries.
State Police explosive specialist set the explosive charges on the car in the early morning hours of day 8. The car burned for most of the day until all of the styrene was consumed. Air monitoring was continued by the Department of Natural Resources, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Coast Guard throughout this action. The evacuation was still in effect on day 9. Efforts during day 10 continued in the gathering of data and the further elimination of hazards.
On day 11, our derrick was used to re-rail 3 cars and move them out of the area. At the same time, the oil cars were offloaded and the phosphoric acid cars were moved. More cars were pulled from both ends of the derailment until finally the 6 vinyl chloride cars were isolated.
Railroad personnel and personnel from the Bureau of Explosives began discussing with me explosive venting of all 6 vinyl chloride cars. After careful deliberation, we concluded that it would be safer to intentionally vent and burn the cars so we might control the fires that could otherwise result. The situation involving the 6 vinyl chloride cars was unique. Several cars were damaged and still burning. There was considerable danger in attempting to move these cars.
On day 12, a large pit was dug around the 6 cars. The charges were designed and placed to rupture the cars to allow the vinyl chloride to drain into the pits to burn quickly and safely.
I count down now. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire! All charges went, got a good burn.
The resulting fires burned throughout the night for approximately 12 hours until the vinyl was consumed. On day 13, after the fires had died down, the cars were examined and flushed with water to decontaminate them. The contaminated water was collected and treated prior to discharge from the site. The emergency was now under control, and the full attention of the team was directed to determining the possibility of allowing the evacuees to return to their homes. The State Health Department, after review of the data, made the decision to allow Livingston residents to return to their homes on the 14th day of the incident, the next day, October 12th.
As of May 1983, more than 55,000 cubic yards of soil, which is the equivalent of 45 football fields 1 foot deep, have been removed. Over 12 million gallons of contaminated rainwater and liquid waste have been treated or removed from the site. Cleanup of the site in Livingston is continuing until acceptable limits established by the Department of Natural Resources are reached.